Hello, I'm the Pink Phantom, and this is my podcast. Join me as I delve into the world of games and gaming, and especially old school RPGs. Together, let's voyage into the astral realm and check out my Phantom thoughts. In this episode, I have a bundle, I have a blog. We get back to the dungeon with the Tales of the Dragon Slayers, post Minotaur fight, and just a little musing thought in between. So let's get to it. We're going to start off this episode with some feedback on part of my RPG a day entries from August coming from BJ. So take it away, BJ. All right. This week in the world of bundles, I've just got one edition from Bundle Holding Dread Lair Nomicon from Raging Swan Press. This is a compilation of Raging Swan's Monstrous Lairs series. Presents 100 layers in 2 succinct pages apiece. Each entry has 7 tables that determine the layer's unique features, surroundings, and treasure. So something for building layers and building the descriptions of the layers to help in your dungeon crawl or hex crawl. In terms of blogs, the one of note that I've been looking at this week is called the 25-Mile Hex. It's exactly, and that's actually the name of the Blogspot blog, and it's about populating and designing a fantasy world using a 25-mile hex as kind of a central basis. It's a defunct blog. It hasn't been added to in a while, but I found it very interesting so far and wanted to pass that on. So one thing I wanted to talk about just briefly, in social media accounts, I've seen the last couple of weeks, several times, people talking about the implied setting of early D&D, TSR era D&D being post-apocalyptic. I've never agreed with that. That doesn't, when I look at what the world of D&D is in those old versions with lost civilizations, and yes, there's a lot of ruins, yes, there's a lot of monsters, but to me it seems more like the early, what is referred to in a lot of history books that are written from a Western perspective, the age of exploration, where the European nations were beginning to circumnavigate Africa, and then, of course, came to the Americas and began exploring the Americas as well, because you have these brand new lands and chances for treasure and to essentially carve out your own domain. That's what the conquistadors were trying to do in the Americas. And of course, you had civilizations that were in various states. You had the Aztec civilization, which was a fairly new civilization. You had the Inca civilization, which had just finished up a civil war. And then, of course, they would run across vestiges of other peoples and civilizations that had passed. For example, particularly in North America, coming to where Cahokia had been when it had been thriving once upon a time, the various mound builder civilizations throughout the Americas. And then you had, of course, legends of creatures and men and tribes and empires and things like that they discovered from the natives. So you had all these things where you had ruins, and you had riches, and you had creatures and plants that you'd never seen before. And there were places and opportunities to make your fortune, and there were places to die horribly in a foreign land. And to me, that matches what you see in the world of D&D, not the various specific settings like the Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk and things like that, but just the generic D&D books, the world that is implied by the procedures and the treasure tables and the monster tables and everything that's in there like that. It's exploring a new unknown land, and not necessarily that everything has collapsed and you're trying to recover. But that's just my 2 cents on that subject. Your mileage may vary. What do you think? Call in and let me know. And now, more from my solo AD&D RPG campaign, Tales of the Dragon Slayers. We pick up with the party after they defeated the Minotaur and collected a few magic items that the Minotaur had on it. The party takes a rest and searches the room. The party returns to the previous room and then through the door to the east. The 30-foot north-south by 20-foot east-west room proves empty. The only door is the one they entered through in the southwest corner, but a search finds a secret door on the south wall in the southeast corner. This leads to an empty 20-foot east-west by 10-foot room. Having fully explored this little sublevel, the party then returns back to the chimney, where they access this area from, and descend back down to the second level. They go north through the room where they encountered the first group of bandits, and then further north to the four-way intersection. Here they choose to go west, and after 30 feet they come to a door. They take a rest, listen, no sound, and Gus forces the door open. They enter a 30-foot by 30-foot chamber. There's one exit in the middle of the north wall, and the south wall is separated into 3 corridors. The party searches the chamber and goes north. Almost immediately, Sven's trident warns that the hall ahead is part of an elevator room, a 20-foot by 20-foot room with the east side not visible behind the wall. The party is able to find and jam the mechanism with spikes. As they are doing this, a group of 11 Grimlocks, armor class 5, hit points 13, broadswords, with 1 leader, armor class 4, hit points 14, battle axe, come down the hall from the north. The Grimlocks are surprised by the party, and Katya attempts to parley as Gus, Sven, and Bernie slide to the front of the formation. So the Fiend Folio entry for Grimlocks doesn't mention any languages that are spoken by them. The AD&D Player's Handbook states that common is known by all humans as well as those semi-humans and non-humans in close contact with people. The Fiend Folio entry says that Grimlocks rarely consort with other beings, other than a 10% chance of sharing their lair with a Medusa, and Medusas speak Medusa in common, or a 2% chance of being with a Mind Flayer, which doesn't speak common. Grimlocks are also average intelligence, 8 to 10, which means 1 or 2 additional languages. So I decided to roll to see if this group was part of a lair, which is 50% chance, and if so, do they have Medusa, 10%, or also if they have a Mind Flayer, 2% chance. So if with one or more Medusa, they will speak common. Otherwise, I'll roll twice on the DMG language table to see if they have a language in common with Katya. The lair roll was 26%, so I added them to the established monster list with the bandits, kobolds, and dwarves. The Medusa roll was 43%, so no. The Mind Flayer roll, 36%, so no. And the language rolls were 53%, which is kobold, which kind of makes sense in this area of the dungeon where there should be some kobolds, and 62% Guardian Naga, which is something I made a note of because the next time a level 7 creature comes up, it could be a Guardian Naga. So that gives more information kind of on what could be in the dungeon here. Due to the lack of communication, I didn't use Katya's charisma bonus, and there is a minus 35% due to alignment differences, lawful good versus neutral evil. The roll is 68%, minus the 35% is 33%, uncertain but 55% negative. A roll of 44% leads the Grimlocks to attack. The initiative tied at 3. The Grimlock leader and 2 others slam into the front line of Gus, Sven, and Bernie to no effect. And in addition to the front line, MacLeod and Harl are able to strike with their spears, while Katya is able to shoot her bow over Sven's head. The Grimlocks do no damage, while Sven and Katya seriously injure the Grimlock leader, and Bernie and Harl severely injure another Grimlock. The next round, the party wins initiative 5-2. Neither side is able to penetrate the other's defenses. The Grimlocks win the next round 2-1. Still no hits. Gus injures the Grimlock in front of him. The Grimlock leader is felled by Sven, and the Grimlock in front of Bernie is also killed. Then the party wins initiative 6-3. Gus and Michael, Sven and Katya, and Bernie and Harl combine to each kill another Grimlock. And so the Grimlocks fail a morale check after that, and they surrender. The party binds them and sends them off with some of their soldiers. Each Grimlock has 7 silver, 8 electrum, and 5 gold on them. The party then takes a rest. They proceed north and enter a 60-foot north-south by 40-foot east-west chamber with their entry point in the center of the south wall. There is another exit slightly north of center on the east wall. The room is empty, but a search reveals a secret door in the southeast corner of the east wall. The party jams the secret door and proceeds east. A 30-foot corridor ends with a door to the north. The party rests, then listens at the door, and Gus forces it open. Upon entry, the party is surprised by 8 skeletons. Gus is hit for 3 damage. The skeletons win initiative 4-1. Edgar is hit for 6 points. Bernie, Sven, and Edgar each dispatch their opponents. Quinn destroys the skeleton that was attacking Katya. Michael and Prier damage the skeletons opposing them. Second round, skeletons win again, 6-1. Skeletons do no damage. Prier kills the skeleton he is fighting. Harl and Bernie dispatch the skeleton attacking Harl. And the party finds pottery jars with gold and gems and then take a rest. The party searches the room and finds a secret door to the east near the northeast corner. They hear nothing at the door and open it. A 5-foot wide corridor leads 30 feet and then ends with a door to the north. Bernie listens at the door, checks for traps, and Gus forces the door. Bernie unfortunately did not detect a trap. A large stone falls from the ceiling onto the party members in the narrow corridor. Bernie, Gus, and Sven. They all have to save versus petrification to avoid damage. Bernie and Gus get their shields up in time to deflect the stone, but Sven fails and takes 15 points of damage, dropping him to -11. As the remainder of the party leverage the large stone off their fellow adventurers and drag Sven out, a group of 6 gnolls spills out the door. The party is caught off guard, 1 segment of surprise. Harl and Prier are caught with their backs to the gnolls. The gnolls are armed with 2-handed swords, 6 foot of space needed to wield, and are forced to operate in single file and swing overhanded. The first gnoll swings at Prier, and it clangs off his armor. The gnolls win initiative 6-3. The gnoll whiffs again. Prier's longsword and Harl's spear can operate side by side, and Michael's spear can attack from the next rank. They all miss. Then the party wins initiative 2-1. They manage to kill the first gnoll. The second gnoll whiffs badly also, so the narrow confines of this corridor are really hampering those 2-handed swords. The party wins initiative 4-3. Prier misses, but Harl and Michael kill the second gnoll. This triggers a morale check. The gnolls panic and flee. The party kills a third gnoll as they retreat. There were 2 rolled 20s on that attack. So the gnolls used their turn of that round to run back north. Next round, I rolled for initiative again. It was tied. The party pursues the gnolls. They enter a 40-foot north-south by 20-foot room in the southeast. They're in the southeast corner. They find 4 other exits with doors on the north, across from the entrance, to the west, 10 feet from the north wall, to the east, on the east side of the northeast corner, and to the east, 10 feet from the south wall. There is no sign of the remaining gnolls. But Harl and Quinn, the Rangers, are able to track the gnolls through the door to the north. The party checks the door and takes 2 chances to force it. Beyond it is a hall which goes 30 feet north, then turns 135 degrees to the right, moving back to the southeast. 30 feet on, stairs descend. Harl and Quinn lose the track, and the party chooses to cease pursuit. So now there's gnolls loose, at least 1 level down. They return to the room the gnolls came from and search it, finding silver and a suit of plate mail in huge chests. Spiking all the doors shut, they choose to return to their quarters on the first level. Collecting Sven's body, they do so without complication. Once home, they discuss using the last of the wishes in their ring of 3 wishes to revive Sven. Ultimately, they decide to preserve the wish for an emergency. Also, Katya is uncertain of casting since she felt like when she used those wishes to bring back Bernie and Sven from the dragon fight, there were some complications, so she wants to avoid complications from a misphrased wish. They know they have sufficient resources to give a sufficient donation to a temple near the fort to revive Sven. Harl and Quinn offer to escort Sven there and also express the desire to seek instructions to further develop their own skills, feeling like they sort of let the party down, losing the track of the gnolls. Once the remainder of the party expresses their determination to find the rest of the dwarves, one of the dwarves that they've already rescued, Vegmar, a third-level fighter, offers to join them on their next sojourn into the second level. So kind of a tough first delving into the second level of this keep. They didn't find any of the dwarves, and one of their own was killed, but they're determined to continue on. The opening theme of this podcast was Strength of the Titans, and the closing music is Late Night Radio, both from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you have any thoughts or feedback, you can get in touch with me by leaving me a voice message on my Google Voice number, 864-209-1441. That's 864-209-1441. Or through SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. That's www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. Or you can send me a message or an audio file on Discord, where I can be found the Pink Phantom, or through email, phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. That's phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. I don't have to play or read your feedback on the podcast if that is not your preference. Just let me know.